My girlfriend secretly planned her dream life with my money behind my back, so I walked out and left her to deal with her mess alone. I, 28M, never thought I'd see the day when I'd be packing my bags and walking out on Lisa, 26F. After 4 years together, I genuinely thought we had something real. I knew she had quirks. She was the creative type, with that messy, free-spirited air that I thought was refreshing, even charming. I'm more grounded, and maybe that's why I didn't see the red flags stacking up, one after another, until I tripped over them. We'd been living together for a year. A big step, I thought, but Lisa made it look easy. She'd already started using words like our and we long before I did, throwing around dreams of houses, weddings, vacations, and a shared future. I wanted those things too, but I believed in building up to them. Lisa, it turned out, believed in jumping right in, as long as it was with my wallet. It started with the house talk. A casual, wouldn't it be nice if, she'd say while scrolling through photos of expensive homes in neighborhoods we both knew were out of our league. I brushed it off, assuming we'd look into it when the time was right. But then she started sending me listings, high-end properties with price tags that nearly gave me a nosebleed. She wasn't looking for a starter home. She was looking for a mansion with manicured lawns, hardwood floors, and a big kitchen for all the fancy dinners she envisioned hosting. "Isn't this place perfect for us?" she'd text, followed by smiley faces and hearts, as if a few emojis could disguise the numbers with all those extra zeros. When I tried to talk about budget, she got irritated. "You need to stop thinking so small. If you keep playing it safe, you'll never get anywhere," she'd say. And then she'd roll her eyes and launch into this whole lecture about seizing the moment and taking risks. She made me feel like the boring, grounded one, as if I was too cautious to keep up with her vision. One day, I overheard her on the phone with her best friend, bragging about how she was working on getting me to step up my game. She laughed, said she was raising my standards. The way she said it made my skin crawl, but I swallowed it, thinking maybe she was just being playful. But that was before I started noticing how far she'd already moved into my life. We'd set up a joint savings account, more for emergencies, maybe a vacation or two. I had no issue putting money in it because, well, I trusted her. She didn't put much in, but I figured her freelance work was unpredictable. Then one day, I logged in and found a chunk of that money missing. Thousands gone, just like that. When I asked her, she shrugged and said she'd been using it to cover our stuff. Groceries, dinners, little things we both supposedly benefited from. I knew that couldn't be right. She wasn't buying food for an army, and the little things didn't add up to thousands. I asked her to go over what she spent, but she danced around it, brushing it off as just life. Looking back, that was when I should have seen the signs. But I let it slide, let her talk her way around it. The small stuff, I kept telling myself, even though the list of small stuff was piling up fast. Her birthday rolled around, and Lisa went all out. She planned this big dinner at a fancy restaurant downtown, invited her friends, got herself a new dress, and told me it was Herb's special day. She'd done most of the planning herself, so I assumed she was paying for it. I even offered to help cover some of the costs, but she waved it off, saying, "It's all handled, babe." We had a good time. She was the center of attention, laughing, enjoying herself, telling her friends how she and I were going to have the life everyone dreamed of. But when the check came, she slid it over to me with this smile, like I should be proud to foot the bill. "Babe, you're not going to make a fuss over this, right?" "It's my birthday," she said, voice low enough that only I could hear. Her friends were all there, watching, smiling, toasting to her. I didn't want to embarrass her, so I paid the bill. It wasn't the money itself that bothered me, but the assumption. Like she'd planned it all out knowing I'd just go along with it. It left me feeling used. At this point, my things had somehow turned into her things. My laptop, my car, my noise-canceling headphones. She borrowed them constantly like she didn't need to ask. If she was working from home, she'd set up in my living room, spread her stuff out, treat the place like it was her studio. "It's just easier here," she'd say, rearranging furniture to better suit her creative flow. I'd come home from work to find my desk cluttered with her papers and half-empty coffee cups. My favorite headphones were gone one day, and when I asked, she acted like I was being stingy. "I needed them for a project," she said, waving it off. When I suggested she might buy her own pair, she looked at me like I'd grown two heads. "We're sharing a life, aren't we?" What's mine is yours, and what's yours is mine. Except it wasn't. Whenever I borrowed her things, it became a big deal. She'd scold me for not respecting her personal space if I so much as touched her laptop. It was a double standard, and it became harder to ignore. One night, I came home early. Lisa was out with friends, and her laptop was open on the kitchen counter. I wasn't trying to snoop, but a file called Wedding and Dream Life Plans caught my eye. My curiosity got the best of me, so I opened it, figuring it was just a Pinterest board or something harmless. But it wasn't a dream board. It was a full-blown spreadsheet, meticulously outlining every detail of a life she'd designed, using my money. There was a column labeled funding sources, and right there, listed as her top contributor, was his savings. She'd budgeted everything down to the tiniest detail. Venues, photographers, flights for vacations, designer clothes, a luxury apartment for the aesthetic. All of it, mapped out using my finances. In the notes section, she'd written things like present as surprise, convince him this is for both of us, and frame as romantic investment. It wasn't just a plan. It was a strategy to manipulate me into buying her dream life, down to the last detail. I sat there, staring at the screen, realizing just how calculated everything had been. She wasn't hoping we'd build a life together. She'd been plotting to build her life, with me as her financial foundation, no different from a line item in her budget. It wasn't just the money. Lisa had wormed her way into my family, subtly angling for professional connections. My parents work in fields related to her industry, and she knew they had pull. Whenever we were at family gatherings, she'd drop little hints about her career struggles, playfully suggesting how amazing it'd be if they could help her out. She'd bat her eyes, put on this whole sweet act, and my parents, being the helpful people they are, bought right into it. Before I knew it, they were introducing her to people, setting up networking opportunities, thinking they were just supporting their son's girlfriend. I didn't realize at the time how calculated it all was. But once I'd seen that spreadsheet, I couldn't unsee it. Lisa wasn't interested in being a part of my family. She was interested in using my family. The final blow came a few days later. She'd borrowed my car for a weekend trip with her friends. No problem, I thought, as long as she filled the tank and brought it back in one piece. But she returned it with a new scratch down the side and a parking ticket tucked into the glove compartment. When I confronted her, she shrugged it off. That's just part of sharing a car, isn't it? No apology, no offer to cover the ticket or the scratch repair. Just a careless, entitled brush-off. That was it. I'd reached my limit. I'd tolerated the house talk, the borrowed things, the manipulated family connections, but this was too much. I was done being a pawn in her dream life game. I didn't tell her I was leaving. I spent the next couple of days quietly packing my things, booking a storage unit, and arranging a place to stay temporarily. When the day came, I left a note on the kitchen counter. I kept it short and simple. I can't do this anymore. I'm tired of being used. Find someone else to fund your life. She blew up my phone as soon as she saw the note. Texts, missed calls, voicemails. The first wave was anger. How could you do this? Followed by accusations of me abandoning her dreams. She couldn't fathom why I would leave just like that. I ignored her calls. After everything, I didn't owe her an explanation beyond what I'd already said. I figured she'd get the message eventually. Then the messages shifted. She went from rage to pity. I was apparently throwing away the best thing I'd ever have, and that no one else would put up with my boring, small-minded attitude. There were long texts about how I'd regret this and how, in the end, I'd come crawling back. I read them but never responded. For all the time she'd spent crafting her dream life, she hadn't once considered that I might not be interested in funding it. Word got around fast. Mutual friends called, asking me what had happened, confused by the sudden split. Some of them didn't know the half of it. I kept it simple and straightforward. I was tired of the entitlement, the manipulation, the way she'd transformed my life and finances into her own personal project. A few friends nodded, admitting that they'd noticed how intense Lisa could be, how she had a tendency to take control of situations. Others seemed shocked, saying they'd thought we were perfect together. One friend told me Lisa was already trying to bounce back, meeting new people, throwing herself into work, even suggesting she was better off without me. Fine by me. The less I heard about her, the better. I was ready to leave it all behind. As the weeks passed, the fog lifted, and I saw everything clearer than I ever had before. I'd let myself get trapped in her fantasy because I wanted to make her happy, wanted a life with her. But that was just it. It was always her life we were chasing. Her plans, her ideas, her endless demands. I'd been along for the ride, thinking I was building something real, when really, I was just along for the ride in her story. The months following were about rebuilding, not just financially but personally. I focused on my own goals, ones that didn't include a constant drain on my time, energy, and savings. I reconnected with friends I'd neglected while trying to keep up with Lisa's demands. I even got back into some old hobbies I'd put on hold. It was strange at first, getting used to a life that didn't revolve around someone else's wants. One day, I ran into Lisa at a coffee shop. She looked polished, put together, like she'd stepped right out of one of her dream life Pinterest boards. She gave me a long, appraising look, as if trying to decide if I was worth acknowledging. In the end, she gave a small, dismissive wave and went about her business without a word. I walked out of there feeling relieved. Seeing her in that moment, all polished and perfect, reminded me of what I'd escaped. She was still the same person, still locked into that vision of a perfect, curated life. And I was no longer part of her plan. What I learned from Lisa was that boundaries are non-negotiable. I had let her inch her way over mine for years, thinking I was being a supportive partner. But true support has limits, and respect goes both ways. Lisa wanted a partner who'd fit into her lifestyle, someone who'd fund her dreams without question. I was happy to help, to build something real, but I needed it to be mutual. In the end, I don't regret the time we spent together, but I'm thankful I got out when I did. I learned to see red flags for what they are, and not brush them off for the sake of keeping the peace. Because once you let someone take advantage of your kindness, they'll keep pushing, keep taking, until there's nothing left. Now, I'm focused on building my own future. One that doesn't require endless compromises, constant sacrifices, or being reduced to someone else's funding source. I'm finally in control of my own life, and there's nothing more satisfying than that.